Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald Quinn, episode 1010, titled Scottie Pippen. We'll talk about that um, and also continue our series of best of the 21st century. We can begin, of course, discussing the NBA Finals. Game 5 took place last night. Oklahoma City finds themselves one game away from their first championship in Oklahoma City. We know they're part of the Seattle franchise, so you combine that, it'll be their second as a franchise. But as OKC, this would be their first. Just a wild game, a strange game, a exciting game. This game had a lot in it, to say the least. Oklahoma City comes out on top 120 to 109. The Pacers on the brink. This was all about a dynamic duo that could terrify, and I mean absolutely terrify the NBA for the next, 8 to 10 years. We're gonna begin with Jalen Williams, J Dub, who had a night for the ages. He scores 40 points, of course, a career high, career playoff high, and 40.6 rebounds and 4 assists, so six assists, 4 rebounds, and just he scored everywhere on the court. Dunks, only had 3 3-pointers, but they were all big threes, including the biggest shot in the game, I thought, at 95, 93, when Indiana cut the two off the Siakam three to push it to 95, 93. But then, of course, they got the steal, Case and Wallace dunk, making it 100 to 93, which in essence didn't put the game away. But after that, Oklahoma City completely took over the game. But, Jalen Williams was the best player on the floor. And it wasn't, I mean, despite SGA's brilliance, and we'll talk about him, he was a guy. Here's a guy who last postseason you really could have pointed the blame and said that he was the reason why they did not advance against the Dallas Mavericks. If you go back to that series, second round, game 5, he was awful. You look at that series as a whole, he was bad. And that series was very close. There were a number of competitive games. I mean, there were 3 winnable games, really 4 winnable games in that series for Oklahoma City against Dallas. Both, they go down 3-1. Both games 3 and 4, games 3, 4, and 6. The games 3, both those games were winnable games. They were going down 3-1. Games 3, 4, and 6 in that series. Games 5 and 6. There were a number of winnable games in that Dallas series. I think people forget how close that Dallas series. And Jalen Williams did not play well. I mean, in that series, Shea was tremendous. Shea was by far the best player in that series, even better than Luka. Even better than Luka. I remember Luka and Kyrie Irving kind of struggled in that series, and it was about that. In essence, OKC got beat by Dallas's role players. But Jalen Williams comes into this season with a question mark. And one of the questions coming into this season with the Oklahoma City was, who could be that number? Somebody had to emerge as their second best player. We know we're getting out. You're getting out of Shea, SGA, MVP, first team All NBA right now, but the best guard in the league. Probably the second best player in the world. You know what you're getting out of the role players, the bench, one of the deepest bench in basketball, great role players, great defensively. The question was, who's going to be that number 2 guy? And I thought going into the season, I said over the course of this season on various podcasts that it had to be Chet Holmgren. Like, Chet Holmgren had to be their second best player in order for them to win the championship. Now, in a year or 2 or 3 years, maybe Chet Holmgren will be their second best player. It might be a time down in the future where Chet Holmgren could be their best player. But as of right now, based off not only last night, but these last 3 games, I think that there's no question if you're Oklahoma City, a fan, if you're somebody, Sam Presti, any you have Dagnall, if you are part of that organization, you absolutely know who your number 2 guy is. There's no question that this guy, and the thing about you, like the thing you love about his game is he attacks the basket in these series. He has gotten better as the series is going on. And he has been great in the biggest of games in these playoffs. Denver series, he was bad. He was bad in that Denver series. You can go back, look at the numbers. He has a horrible game 6. I mean, he's awful in that game. He bounces back with a big time game 7, propels them to victory in that series. And then you get to the conference finals. Again, struggled in game 3. They get destroyed. Finishes the series strong in games 4 and 5. And this series, these last 3 games, he's played at a level to where people are starting to question whether or not he could possibly be the Finals MVP. Which I mean, I don't think there's really a question. I think SGA clearly is the Finals MVP. SGA from game 1 on up until last night has been the best player in the series. But that's how well Jalen Williams is playing. The last 3 games, 31 points, shooting 51% from the field, 40% from the line, 40% from 3-point line, and also great defense. And, the comparisons of the Scottie Pippen comparisons are starting to come. He's only 24 years old. You remember, you go back, and I went back and looked at when I look at like great number 2 performances, coming of age performances for a second banana in the finals. I looked at, went through Kobe and went through a couple other guys who were excellent second bananas that played well in the finals as the team's second best player. I really think that what we're seeing right now out of Williams, and the development of his game and the growth of his game by series. I mean, he's not even the same player that he was a month ago when we watched him destroy Memphis. But we're seeing probably one of the best coming of age performances since 1991. You got to go back to Scottie Pippen, and it's not, it's the irony in that a lot of people are comparing him, or there are people that are saying that this guy has the makings of a young Scottie Pippen. He can defend multiple. He can defend 3 to 4 positions. There was a time early in the season when Chet Holmgren was hurt, and Hardstyle missed him a little bit of time as well, where he played center. You can run your offense through him. We saw what happened in Game 4, the biggest game in the series up to this point. Where they're down 2-1, they took the ball out of SGA's hands to save him for the fourth quarter, which ended up paying off dividends with the 15 with him SGA scoring 15 in that fourth quarter to tie up that series after being down by 7 in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter. And this is a guy, again, catch and shoot, get to the rim, gets to the line, mid range. Fall away shots, finishing with the either hand. Like these shots the shot making, it was ridiculous, and he does not take bad shots. Like, this is a guy that he does not, for the most part, does not take bad shots. Last night was one of the best performances that you will ever see for a guy who is not the team's best player, for a guy who is only 24 years old. He's only 24 years old, and you look at. I went back and looked at Pippen in the 91 finals, as they took out the Lakers. Pippen in that series 20 points, almost 21 points, 9 rebounds, six assists, 2.4 steals, and of course changed the whole complexion of the series with his defense on Magic Johnson. And in the closing game, I think a lot of people forget how spectacular he was. In the closing game, the closeout game in that series against the Lakers, Pippen went for 32, 13, 32 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 block shots. Did have 7 turnovers in that game, by the way, but whatever. Jordan had 6. 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, a block shot. Just a phenomenal performance to close out the Lakers in that series as they won in 5, and it helped catapult the Bulls to a three-peat and of course 6 championships in 8 years. And again, if you're Oklahoma City, you have your man. You have this. You have your guy. The SGA J Dub pick and roll is terrifying for the rest of the league. That pick and roll, because both guys, these are not complete offense. I mean, SGA is a complete offensive player. J Dub will be there eventually, but these guys offensively could just basically pick your poison with that pick and roll. They both can shoot the three. They both can shoot the mid range. They both can get to the cup. They both can get to the line. And again, watching a young player develop right before your eyes and grow right before your eyes. He was bad, lad. We've seen him in certain moments in these playoffs where he hasn't played well. We've seen him, and you heard Doris Burke discuss it. Takes the accountability. Is hard on himself. Again, low maintenance. You never hear anything about any complaining about shots or about. You never hear any nonsense about this guy. Just goes out there, competes at a high level on both ends of the floor. This year, of course, was All NBA, third team, second team All Defense. Again, only 24 years old, and I'm telling you right now, if you're the other 29 teams, you had to almost lose your shit watching this development, because that was really that was the only question mark outside of a lack of experience as a team. But in terms of winning postseason series, in terms of down to winning clutch games and stuff like that, the only question mark about this team was who was going to be their number 2. That was the only real question mark, and he emphatically has answered that. Gilgeous-Alexander, to not be left out of this, was phenomenal as well last night. 31 points, 10 rebounds, 4 block shots, and 2 steals. Completely took the Indiana Pacers defense apart with his passing, especially in the second half. Got people, found his 3-point shooters. Allowed Williams hit the space to do his thing as well. Williams didn't interrupt, didn't get in the way of that. Made sure he got him the basketball. They both combined to take the score or assist on 103 of OKC's 120 points. But with all that said, it was the OKC defense that just completely changed the complexion of this game. They had a stretch where they had 4 straight steals, 5 steals in 7 possessions. They completely just throttled Indiana, 23 turnovers, 32 points off turnovers. And they had some help with, of course, what transpired with Tyrese Halliburton and his cat. Now we know why he was compromised, why he looked the way he looked. He suffered a calf strain sometime early in the first half. Went in briefly to the locker room. Still played 34 minutes. Again, didn't make a shot. Only had 4.7 rebounds and 6 assists. Only had 1 shot in the paint. And there were a number of occasions where you see him get a switch on, Hartenstein in particular. And normally, early in the series, that would be a step back three, whether it's on Hartenstein or even Chet, that would be a step back three. That was not the case in this game at all. I don't remember him even taking one floater. Um, Again, these calf strains normally take even a grade one normally takes a couple weeks of recovery and rest from that standpoint. Like, if this were a regular season, he would not be playing on Thursday, even with the extra days rest for the travel day and for the travel day and for the practice day. That they, of course, they're not going to practice on. They're not going to practice tomorrow. But I don't know you know what Indiana, what Carlisle, what they can expect out of him in Game 6. I don't like. I think if you're Carlisle, you have to have a short hook. I think Carlisle did a bad. I think Carlisle has coached a masterful series for the most part, but I think he dropped the ball last night. I absolutely think you have to, in that situation, go with McConnell in that fourth quarter, considering McConnell had a big third quarter, single-handedly kept Indiana from getting blown out the gym. Um, had like 18 points in 22 minutes, and just was just making just some great shot making, great energy from McConnell, and it was clear, it was evident from the second quarter on, really from the first quarter on, that that Halliburton did not have it. He couldn't move. He absolutely could not move. Um, and I just think, Carlisle, and again, I don't think that cost him the game. Listen, Oklahoma City was going to win this game. Oklahoma City is the better team. They have, like, not only they have the best player in the series, they have the best two players in this series. Siakam played well last night. And the Indiana bench, which kept them in the game, McConnell, Toppin, those guys actually, that Indiana bench actually played well. It played well also with the 43 points. But again, too much SGA, too much Jalen Williams. Um, Look at the series. The Caruso has been phenomenal in this series with the defense, with having 2 20-point games, shooting over 40% from 3-point range from the three. His just this guy, listen, this guy, and averaging on top of it, averaging close to 3 steals a game, and in about 30 minutes a game, shooting 42% from the 3-point line, 46%, and 83 from the foul line. He's been phenomenal. Lou Dort has shot the lights out, shooting, not only giving you the great defense that he normally gives you with, making first team all defense, 58% from the 3-point line. You knew that coming off a game where they only shot 3 for 17, that they were due to have a big 3-point shooting game, and that certainly was the case last night. They made 14 threes and made some timely threes. Dortz made a couple of them. Aaron Wiggins made a couple. Made a couple of them, and Jalen Williams made a couple as well. So they were absolutely due for a big time 3-point shooting game. And despite everything that was going against Indiana, and this is why you have to respect Indiana, and this is why, when this series is over, and I don't see Indiana winning the series. I mean, I don't see Indiana winning the series, especially with Halliburton compromised. But Indiana had everything going against them. They probably should have lost by 30 points last night. You got the crowd into it. Halliburton is compromised physically. Indiana plays a bad first half, and they still found themselves 95-93 in the fourth quarter. That's why you have to respect Indiana. Indiana played a great, in terms of shooting the ball. Indiana shot 59% in the second half, but the problem is they had 12 turnovers, and turning over the ball against this team is basketball death. Like, you cannot turn the ball over in this team, and even in the fourth quarter, you get a big fourth quarter out. Siakam, he had 14 in the fourth quarter, was their best player, along with McConnell. But you cannot turn over the ball against this team. Indiana in this series has 93 turnovers, 93 turnovers in this series. And again, Indiana was a team that they're not a high turnover team. No, they're not like Minnesota. They don't put the ball on the floor. They don't. But Oklahoma City, just keeps coming at you in waves with the defense. And when you have when your stars, when your all stars play great defense, you're gonna be, like Jordan Pippen, like Jordan Pippen, you're gonna be almost, Duncan Robinson back in their heyday when they first started winning, when they first won a championship in '99. That makes the game so much easier for the rest of the team, and they have no defensive liabilities. There's no one that you can target for Oklahoma City defensively. No one. Like you playing the Knicks, you can target Brunson, you can target Cat. Uh, People try to target Halliburton a little bit. Halliburton or some of their bigs, Bradley or Bryant. There's no target. You can't target anybody on OKC consistently. Like you just can't. Like they're no weak links defensively, and that's going to be the ultimate, along with Shea's brilliance, Jalen Williams' development. That will be the ultimate reason why they are going to win this championship. And listen, Oklahoma City, they have answered all they have answered the door every single time they've been challenged in this postseason. Forget about the Memphis series. That was a cakewalk. That was a scrimmage, a 4-game scrimmage. Denver series down 2-1, down 1-0, down 2-1. They win a game 7. Minnesota, they lose by 43 points, 2-1. They win the next 2 games, close out in 5. This series, Indiana, that game, if Indiana goes on to lose this series, Indiana will look back at that game for they had Oklahoma City on the ropes. They absolutely had them on the ropes in that fourth quarter. Jalen Williams was not playing well. It was all Shea in that fourth quarter, and they could not knock him out. Caruso probably had his best performance of the series with the 20. He had a big 20 points in that game. And in essence kept them in it long enough for Shea to take him home with the 15 points and with the 35 point game. And if they go on to lose this series, that will be you're an Indiana fan, that will be the game you circle and look at and says, we could have won that game. We're up 3-1. More than likely, this team is not coming back from a 3-1 deficit against us. But, that's the way it goes. I hate to, I don't want to sit up here and count Indiana out. Obviously they've been phenomenal throughout these playoffs. They've bounced back from tough losses. They've had these wild comebacks, but they are, we could be in the midst of a transition. I know that we are in the midst of a transition in the NBA, and similar to '91 with the Bulls, similar to 2015 with with Golden State. It feels like it feels like something special is happening with this OKC team. It feels like this OKC team has completely arrived, and it feels like Thursday night will be not a comeback but a coronation for the Thunder. So we'll see what happens on Thursday night in Game 6. Indiana, of course, is a great home team. They have a great crowd. They'll be inspired. They'll hit Oklahoma City off the jump. Their role players will play better. Nembhard was awful in this game. Turnovers, just bad shots. He will definitely. I expect him to play better in game 6. But it's just a matter of what can they get? What will they get out of Halliburton? Like and again, I'm not even going to get into the Halliburton discourse. We gauge every Halliburton game like it's Armageddon with is he a superstar and so on and so on. It's not even, to me, it's not even just, it's not even an argument worth discussing. He wasn't good last night, but that guy, he is the straw that stirs the drink for the Pacers without question. They are not the same team if he is not playing at a high level. And again, Carlisle's going to have a decision on his hands. He's going to have a major decision Um, if I'm Carlisle, you got. I mean, your first priority is not for Halliburton's feelings, is to win the game. And if you gotta go with the quick hook, go with the quick hook. You gotta go with the quick hook. Like you have a more than capable backup point guard in Kano. You have a guy you can play Nimhart at the point. They have other options. They have a number of guys that can score the basketball. They have 10 guys. I saw something in this series. Which is amazing in terms of the depth of Indiana. Indiana in this series, they have yeah, Indiana has, and this is just ridiculous. Right now, Indiana has 8 guys averaging 10 or more points in this series. Eight, 8 guys. So they have a number of guys that can score, that can get you 17 to 20 on a given night. Siakam could get you 30, 35 to 40, but they have a number of guys that can score the basketball. Um, so we'll see what happens. Again, I expect that we will see Oklahoma City celebrating down in Circle City. We'll deep dive the trade, some trade action that had transpired on Sunday. Of course, you had it wasn't a blockbuster trade. It was a trade, a noteworthy trade, but it's not. I heard blockbuster trade. I was like, did Durant get traded? But um, Memphis and Orlando, Desmond Bane goes to Orlando um, for KCP, Cole Anthony, 4 first round picks, including two unprotected picks in 28 and 30, a pick swap in 29. The Grizzlies now have 6 unprotected picks. With the Magic, you get a guy in Desmond Bane who is a professional scorer, an excellent shooter, a solid defensive player, tough guy, fits right into what Orlando needs. Somebody that can play off the ball. It doesn't need the basketball. Is not a volume dribbler. Is not going to sit up here and pound the ball for 20 seconds. That's not his game. Perfect fit for what Orlando needs. They need another shot creator. They need another a shot maker, especially from the defense from the 3 point line that could create um, create space for Pablo Banchero, who, if he's healthy, will be an All NBA caliber player next year. There's no question in my mind that if Pablo Banchero is healthy next year, he will absolutely be a second or third team All NBA player. Has and he is a guy who, in 2 playoff appearances, has not shied away from the moment. Tough as they come, fearless, does not care about anybody that he's going against. He will take on Tatum. He'll take on any. He's not afraid of any player. This guy is absolutely fearless. So I understand what Orlando was trying to do. You look at where the Eastern Conference is at right now. Indiana, to me, will go into next year without question the team to beat. They have a number of, they're younger. I mean, Halliburton, Mathurin, Nembhard are all young players. Even Toppin is only 27. Like Siakam's the old head at 31. Um, and he's still playing at an All NBA caliber level. He's been spectacular for them in his 2 year stint or year and a half stint with the Pacers. But there's nobody in the Eastern Conference that will be feared like Boston was coming into the season or the last couple of seasons. There's no prohibited just favorite like OKC was coming into this season, or even not even coming into this season, maybe coming into the postseason after winning 68 games. Like there's no uh these teams don't fear Indiana. They damn sure don't fear Cleveland or New York. So if you're Orlando, then yeah, take a shot. This is going to be your core four: Banchero, Wagner, Bain. I mean, they still have some good pieces off the bench. some decent pieces off the bench. Like this is their team. Suggs as well. He was injured, so and keep in mind about Orlando. Orlando was 41-41, and they had a number of their key players hurt. And Wagner, Suggs, and Banchero all missed significant time. They all missed significant time over the course of the season. So Orlando probably goes into the season thinking that they could compete to make for a conference finals appearance and possibly for the NBA finals appearance. They really, and if you traded away all this draft capital, you have to think that you don't make this trade thinking that you are a second round team and you might make a conference finals appearance. If you make this trade, you better believe that you are a NBA finals contender. Period, point blank. And if Banchero develops the right way, that possibly you could be a championship contender in a couple of years. Because people can talk about the picks all they want and saying that they're mid first round picks and not top 5 picks, whatever. And Orlando will be good, in 28 or 2030. Okay, cool. More probably so. Probably in 2028 and probably 2030, Orlando will probably be a very good team. But here's the bottom line. We in the NBA, first round draft picks are the most prized assets to have in the NBA outside of a star player. Like you have first round picks, it gives you all type of flexibility to make moves, and to really improve your basketball team. And by the way, you can get quality players outside the top 10, outside the top 5, outside the top 10, and outside the lottery. Let's not pretend like you can't. Like the Pacers with player development, and go look at the Pacers, go look at Memphis, go look at there are a couple teams that had drafted late successfully drafted late. So it's not like you can't get quality players with mid first to late first round picks. But the whole point, I understand. I totally agree with what the Grizzlies are doing. I totally get. In the Grizzlies, again, you take, Cole Anthony is a very good role player. I think KCP still has some. KCP still has some gas left in the tank. I know the contract, $43 million for 2 years, but I understand it was part of the compensation because he has so much left on his contract. But if you're the Grizzlies right now, you have 6 unprotected first round picks. That's a lot. I mean, that is a lot of draft capital to have. Question with Memphis, everybody's asking, what do you do with Ja? What do you do with Jaren Jackson Jr.? What would be the next step with those 2 particular players? Do you go for a rebuild? Is this a reset? I'm telling you right now, I probably would lean like I think they're probably going to keep both of them. But if I'm running the franchise, I would just go. I would just tear. I like if I'm not competing. You're in the Western Conference, so the West is going to be loaded from top to. I mean, like the West Conference next year is going to be ridiculous. Uh, I think I would go probably all in terms of a rebuild, and trade both Jaren Jackson and John Morant. And again, by the way, that doesn't mean you have to tank, but I just don't see a pathway. I'm like, yeah, if I keep both these guys, both these guys are extension eligible. All right, both these guys are extension eligible. You do not have to extend them this summer. You don't. But I just don't see. I don't see why you would keep why would you keep both of them? And it makes zero sense to trade one and keep the other. Like I'm not building around Jaren Jackson Jr. Do you really trust John Morant moving forward with the injury problems? And yeah, I know, and just some of his just decision making in general. Just even just I haven't seen enough maturity out of John Morant, to be honest with you, to put the keys to my franchise in him for the next 5 years. You go all in, you can turn those six unprotected picks into like 12 first round 12 round first round picks between those guys. Those guys, despite those guys, both those guys have I think will still have a lot of trade value. There are a number of teams. There are a few teams that would take a risk on Ja Morant. There are a couple teams I believe that absolutely will think that they could just rebrand his career. He's still very young. Um, he just needed to get out of Memphis. There are some general managers, owners some general managers that could sell Ja Morant to their ownership. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is a borderline All NBA caliber player. I know he's a poor rebounder, but offensively, defensively, still above average defensive player. Has improved his offensive game every year. I mean, he was an all-star this year. So, and he's still a very young player. Just as long as he's not your best player, and you're not going to give him. And he's not. He didn't make All NBA this year, so he's not going to receive the super max. He can receive a respectable max contract. But I'm telling you right now, I would not build around these two. I don't believe that you can build that these two guys can be your two best players, and you go out there and compete with OKC or with a Houston or with or even with a team, or even with a Denver Nugget, even with like a Denver or what have you. There's some again, San Antonio is coming. Wembanyama is coming. They're going to take a major jump next year. They're going to do something in free agency. They had the draft picks. The San Antonio will be a top 4, top 5 team next year in the Western Conference. They will be a force in the Western Conference. I'm not saying that they're going to get out the West or that they're going to even go to the conference finals, but they're going to take a major jump in the conference. You still have Minnesota. The Clippers are still very good. So the West is too hard for Memphis to be playing Mr. In between, playing go between. Like, you don't want to be. I don't want to be a 43 win team, 41 win team in the West with these two high price, high paid players who have shown to me. I've seen enough out of Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. over the past 4 to 5 years. I've seen enough with them on the same team. Not like I haven't seen 4 to 5 years of it. They've had a long time. They've had a number of years to develop and take next steps. It did not look how long. Look, it took. This is what Oklahoma City's third. They were in the play-in 2 years ago. Last year they get to the conference semifinals. This year they probably gonna win the NBA championship. It doesn't take that long if you're headed in the right direction. Pacers last year, conference finals. This year, NBA finals. As far as Kevin Durant goes, Kevin Durant has his own list. Seemingly every day is a new team that he seemingly says he won't go to. In terms of the teams that he wants that is on his list, San Antonio, Houston. Of course, yeah, San Antonio and Houston are the two favorites. I would say this in regards to Kevin Durant. If I'm San Antonio, I wouldn't touch him. The age gap between he and Wembanyama is too much. Of course, we know they have the assets; they can make it work easily, even with him having over $54 million salary. But I put Kevin Durant on San Antonio. They're not winning a championship. Kevin Durant, his birthday is in September. It will be, I believe, 37 or 38. I believe he'll be 37, maybe even 38. The point is, it will be year 19. I think it'll be 38. about time before the season starts. 38 years old. He's still playing offensively at a high level, but Wembanyama is only what 23. Castle, those guys are in their early 20s. You will not again. You won't have to give up the second pick to get him. They have the second. They had the second pick. They have the 14th pick. So you're not going to have to give up a ton to get him. But that's not even the point. The point is, um, the timelines between Wembanyama and Kevin Durant are too far apart. They're just too far apart, and it just doesn't make sense. San Antonio, you have other options. Um, I mean, you have other options if you're San Antonio. You don't. San Antonio is going. Listen, if you're San Antonio, you're going to take a jump next year because Wembanyama will be an All NBA caliber player next year, and he will be a top 10 player. So your team's going to take, and Castle's going to be in his second year, and you have Fox for a full off season. So they're going to like with all those guys healthy and having a full training camp and a full off season together, they will be dramatically improved versus last year. And it's all right to go to the first round and get knocked out or be in the top 6, top 7. That's fine. It's part of it's part of their development. When Bayan, Castle, those guys get their first taste of playoff basketball, that's cool. It's not like they're expected to win a championship next year. They shouldn't be. That's ridiculous. Now again, Houston's a favorite. Um, he makes perfect sense for Houston considering what his skills. I mean, listen, he can fit. This is Kevin Durant. He can play off the ball. He can catch and shoot. Great mid range as you can do offensively. We know what Kevin Durant is, so the fit is not the issue. It's whether or not the biggest question is if you sign him, and now you're not just getting him for 1 year. You're going to have to give him $122 million, $112 million for you're going to sign him to a 2 year supermax. So you're committing basically for 3 years to Kevin Durant. And to me, if you're Houston, hey, why not? Like, why not go out there? You get a guy. If Houston, it makes perfect sense. It does not make sense for a couple of. I don't think it makes sense for the Knicks. I don't think it makes sense for the Spurs. He doesn't want to play in Minnesota, so he's not going to Minnesota. That's not going to happen. So I think whoever Durant is traded for, I don't think you're going to have to give up a lot to get Durant. I don't. I really don't think you're going to have to give up a lot to get him. To be perfectly honest with you, Indiana made a quiet trade, but it could have a big time effect. They traded their first round pick this year for to New Orleans for a 2026 first round pick for first in 2026. This will allow them some more cap space. If they get rid of Tony Bradley, that'll be $3.2 million of free of money as well. So they could have upwards of $23 million under the cap that will allow them possibly to make a respectable and a serious offer at Miles Turner, who's going to be their prized free agent guy that that absolutely will have to keep to to be the team to be the clear cut favorite in the Eastern Conference. They cannot lose Miles Turner because they don't have anybody to replace him. To be perfectly honest with you, and he's played well in the postseason. I know he's been in a bit of a slump in the finals, but for the most part, Turner has played excellent basketball. We know what he can do, stretching the floor and with the defense. So that was a small move that might have went under the radar, but very important for the very near future of the Indiana Pacers Pacers. That was when it comes to their salary cap and them being able to pay Miles Turner to make a serious run at Miles Turner in the offseason. Also, the 21st century, we're coming off, of course, the U.S. Open. Um, Really not. I know the guy made a 64-foot putt, but I couldn't get into it. If like it was one of it was I know Adam Scott Scheffler was on the fringe. Adam Scott tried to make a run, but this I'm sorry, there were too many no names on this version of the U.S. Open. Every so often you'll get a and again it doesn't happen that often because there are so many great players. There's so many guys in golf that are either have major tournament, have won a major tournaments, and so many big names. But these are one of these. These were one. This was one of the major tournaments, one of these U.S. Opens that you would get a list of who's that, and that's what this weekend felt like. It was not compelling. I was not into it. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. But that was not the case 25 years ago when one Eldrick Tiger Woods um, won his very first U.S. Open at Pebble Beach with one of the most dominant performances in the history of major championship golf. He wins it. He won it by 15 shots. Uh, he was 12 over. 12 over. The next closest guy, Ernie Els, was 12 under. The next closest guy, in terms of Ernie Els, who finished second, was three over, and he had a 10-shot lead after 3 rounds. Ernie Els said before this was before the final round. He says before we went out, I knew I had no chance. Tiger was having a 10-stroke lead at the beginning of the final round, and it was just basically an 18-hole coronation in that during that tournament. So that would be his third major. Um, he had previously won the 97 Masters and the 99 PGA Championship. Now, this would propel him to go on the greatest run of major championship golf in the history of the sport. So from 99 to 2002, he wins a possible 7 out of 13 majors. Coming into this event, he was red hot. He had won 11 out of 20 PGA events. Here's the thing. So leading up to this, right? So he wins the Masters in 97, and he just completely just outside. And at that time, in 1997, after he won the Masters, the only name that was bigger in the sports world was Michael Jordan. After the Masters, he goes into a mini slump. So wins the Masters in 97, finishes, of course, first. He doesn't win another major. He almost goes a full 2 years without winning another major. Almost went 3 years without winning another major before he beat Bob May in a playoff in '99 at Valhalla in Chicago. So in Medina, in Medina Country Club in Illinois, just outside Chicago. And he didn't beat Bob May. He beat Sergio Garcia, who was only 19 at the time. So he finishes going to 2000. He finishes fifth in the Masters. And then he goes on this run that, again, from 99 to 2002, he wins 6 majors, finishes top 5 in 8 out of 12 majors, including a runner-up. He dominates this tournament, and it propels him to winning not only wins the U.S. Open, he wins the Open Championship, PGA Championship. It comes back in 2001 and wins the Masters. And at that point, he holds all 4 majors. He called it the Tiger Slam. A lot of people criticize him for calling it the Tiger Slam, saying that, it wasn't the actual Grand Slam, which in hindsight looks insane. It was insane discourse because for a golfer to hold all four majors at the same time is we will never ever see that again. Ever. We will never see that again. It just will not happen. And again, this stretch he went this stretch he had from '99 to the end of 2002. Again, the most dominant stretch of championship golf of that's ever in the history of the sport. Like eh, this guy at this point, Michael Jordan is retired, and he is without question the biggest athlete in the world. He is like he is dominating the sport like we've never seen it dominate before. Um, you know, he goes to like I said, 2000. You look at his majors. 2000 finishes fifth in the Masters, wins all three majors, wins the rest of the three majors in 2000, finishes first in the rest of the three majors. All dominant performances, by the way. Um, all dominant performances, especially in the Open Championship and especially at the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. He won the Open Championship by 8 strokes. So he won the British Open, wins the British Open by 8 strokes, and then of course he wins his second straight. He beat Bob May in the playoff in his second straight PGA and wins his second straight PGA Championship, and then he comes back in the 2001 Masters. Um, and wins the Masters in 2001 for the second wins the Masters for the first time since 1990 since 97. So at that point, like I said, at that point he is this. I mean, he's taken on this mythical. He's untouchable at this point. At that point, he's absolutely untouchable. And again, the last three majors tied for 12th, tied for 25th, tied for 29th. So he doesn't have he cools off in 2001, comes back in 2002, wins the Masters again, wins the U.S. Open, and finishes second in the PGA Championship and tied for 28th in the British Open. So again, he had a stretch, that stretch of golf from 98, 1999 into 2002 was his best stretch of golf in major championships. Um, was absolutely his best stretch of golf in major championships. Now he would have a couple years, 2005 as well as 2006, where he would win multiple majors. But again, this version of Tiger Woods is absolutely one of the great. Forget about one of the great golfers of all time. This is at a stage where he is frankly, one of the great athletes of all time, and one of the most dominant stretches that any athlete has ever had. Like he's doing stuff that we have never seen on a golf course. Never. They're talking about, Tiger proofing the course at the Masters. That's how dominant he was. Here's a Marco Mera says that you were building a complete golfer, you would build Tiger Woods. We've been talking about him for 2 years. I guess we'll be talking about him for the next 20. When he's on, we don't have much of a chance, Ernie Els. Just again, you're talking about. I think people have to realize also this was a dominant performance. Like I said, this is one of the most dominant individual performances that you ever see. But it's also important to realize just how deep the talent was in golf. You're talking about Mickelson, Els, BJ Singh, Retief Goosen. Sergio is coming. He's not there yet, but he's coming. I mean, the amount of the quality talent in golf right now. I mean, Nick Faldo was still very good at one. He at one point was a great. Was number one in the world back in '94. I mean, Nick Price, Nick Faldo. Like the amount of talent is deep in golf at this point. Like you had a number of guys, but again, this is the VJ Singh, Ernie Els, Retief Goosen. This is kind of like to a lesser extent David Duval. So again, Mickelson. This is golf at like the amount of the level of competition that not only that he's beating, that he's destroying was next level. There was an absolute who's who of guys who will, once they're done playing, who will all end up in the Hall of Fame. Some of these guys are major winners in their own right. And again, he's embarrassing these guys. Like he's destroying these guys, including Mickelson. That's it. He came into that tournament, the 2000 U.S. Open, had won 20 of having won 11 of 20 PGA events. That means 11 wins, 9 losses, and during that stretch. So again, that's the 21st century. Tiger Woods is 2000 U.S. Open. I don't bet you we will ever see a performance that dominant again, especially at a U.S. Open, especially at a U.S. Open course. We're gonna finish off on real thoughts. I will let you go with the Stanley Cup. If you haven't followed the Stanley Cup this year, you have been seeing one of the better Stanley Cups that we've seen in recent memory. Tonight, as we record, by the time you hear this series could be over, or either it'll be over, or we'll be headed to a second straight game 7 between Florida and Edmonton. This series has been spectacular. You've had 3 overtime games. You have some wild comebacks. Obviously, some great individual play with Connor McDavid and Drexel. This could be Florida trying to become the first repeat champion since the Pittsburgh Penguins in 16-17. Very interesting if Edmonton does lose for the second straight year, that there is a possibility that Connor McDavid could have 2 Conn Smythes, but no Stanley Cup. Remember, last year he won the Conn Smythe on a losing team. That guy again, I'd say on the runner up. Maybe that sounds better. Uh, because in the NHL, of course, they have a playoff MVP, which I understand, but it has to be hard to accept a MVP when your team doesn't win the Stanley Cup. And to do again, there's a possibility, there is a scenario, um, because he leads right now. He's tied with Drexel, his teammate, with in terms of points. They both have 33 points. Again, if Florida wins, the NHL would absolutely would be doing Connor McDavid a favor by not giving him the Conn Smythe for the second straight time. Florida doesn't have one guy that probably stands out that can touch those 2 guys in terms of being playoff MVP. And if you're Florida, you have to say yourself, we won back-to-back Stanley Cups, and not one of our guys is worthy of the Conn Smythe. So that'll be some interesting discourse, to say at least. But this has been a spectacular series. Again, some wild comebacks. Edmonton has had a couple of wild comebacks, but Florida has been the better team. They were the better team last year. Remember, they were up 3-0 and almost blew the series, and Edmonton came back to force a game 7. This year, Florida has been in control of the series for the most part. And they find themselves ready to clinch a second straight Stanley Cup. So again, a fun matchup. You got the best player in the sport going against a team that seemingly is the best team in the sport. You have this is an absolute rivalry when you meet in back-to-back years in the Stanley Cup. Edmonton trying to win their first Stanley Cup since the Mark Messier, days back in post Wayne Gretzky. I believe that was like 1990. 1989. I'm not 89. I think 1990. Last time Edmonton won a Stanley Cup. Again, that was without Gretzky. That was Messier. That's the one that makes Messier, that takes Messier to a whole nother level. He won 2 Stanley Cups without Wayne Gretzky. He won 4 with him and won 2 without him. He had 6 total. So that's why Messier is considered to be one of probably one of the top 10 to 15 players of all time, winning those 2 cups without the greatest of all time in Wayne Gretzky. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. Like, subscribe, share this podcast. I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week. So long.